I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that I hate movie trailers. When they're not spoiling important plot details or revealing a cool moment that would have been more effective in the actual movie, they can still be incredibly misleading, and they're pretty bad at communicating what the movie will actually be like. The way we market movies currently by making trailers through montages is a flawed way of marketing film. There's only a set number of ways to make an effective trailer montage that both doesn't give away too much and still reveals enough to entice the audience. There are trailers out there that do exactly that, but they're few and far between. I think the only way to solve this problem is to be more creative with how we market movies. And there was one studio who was originally breaking the montage mold with their trailers: Pixar. If you're my age, you probably remember seeing the teaser trailers for movies like The Incredibles and Monsters, Inc. These were not trailers that showed off parts of the movie, they were basically short films especially created to market the film. These were great because they were creative, memorable, and best of all, they showed off exactly what the movie would be like without spoiling anything. For whatever reason, Pixar stopped doing this some time ago, and now they're like every other studio that promotes their movies with regular trailers. And it's a shame because I would love for this kind of marketing to make a comeback. I think the only problem with this method is it takes a lot more effort to make a short film to market your movie than it does to outsource the process to an editing studio and tell them to make the trailer. The biggest argument against marketing movies this way would be that only big Disney-owned studios like Pixar could spare the resources to do it. But I disagree, and that's because there's a great example of a creative team with a tiny budget doing the exact same thing as Pixar, and it wasn't even in promotion of a movie. It was in promotion of a small budget web series, one that's grown so popular that you've probably already heard of it: RWBY. For the uninitiated out there, RWBY is a web series created by the late Monty Ohm, someone who was well known online for his fantastic animated fight scenes in web shows like Dead Fantasy and Red vs. Blue. After doing 3 seasons of Red vs. Blue for Rooster Teeth, he started production on his own show, RWBY, the first trailer for which debuted at the end of Red vs. Blue Season 10. And despite some of its technical flaws, it's exactly what I want from a trailer. The trailer is basically a short film that shows a young girl walking through the woods, an image accompanied by beautiful music with cryptic lyrics relating to grim fairy tales.
White is cold and always yearning.
Then she's ambushed by a pack of wolves, and this happens. What follows is a giant action scene with fantastic and beautiful choreography that just speaks for itself. What makes it even better is the fantastic soundtrack, which is synced to the beats of the scene perfectly and enhances everything that happens. It's a fight that just gets more intense as it goes on until every last wolf is dead. After the mayhem is over and everything has settled down, a silhouette of 4 girls appears with the letters RWBY underneath them, representing an acronym for their colors. And the first girl, Red, is revealed as the girl in the trailer, implying that the other characters will be revealed in their own trailers. If this isn't fantastic marketing, I don't know what is. Not only do we get a kick-ass action scene accompanied by a mysterious character and great music, we're also told that there's going to be more of this before the show even comes out. It's a trailer that's so good that it becomes a piece of entertainment itself. But because of what it doesn't tell you about its characters and story, it creates intrigue for the audience to find out more. It's the perfect recipe for getting people to watch your show. As expected after the Red trailer, 3 more trailers exactly like it were released for each of the girls: Black, White, and Yellow. All of them were fantastic action scenes synced to great music, and they all slowly revealed information about the world and the characters, and it was so intriguing. Back in high school, when I was a big follower of this show, I showed these trailers to all of my friends, and nearly all of them watched the show after seeing the trailers, because they were just that effective at getting you hyped. This is a great way to market movies in general, but it's a brilliant way to market a new property. With all of the problems that plague most montage trailers, it's not surprising that most people don't feel that inclined to take a chance with a new original movie. On the other hand, creating a short film that showcases everything your film has to offer while still enticing the audience to see more is a surefire way to get butts in seats. It's kind of incredible. Movie studios are making sequel after sequel because they just don't know how to market original big budget movies. But RWBY cracked the code by just thinking outside of the box. Besides the fans he's already had and the fans he gained from Rooster Teeth, no one really knew who Monty Oum was. And a story about 4 girls fighting evil monsters in a fantasy world would look pretty unappealing in a regular trailer, so it's not like RWBY had a guaranteed audience. It was a completely off-the-wall idea and it could have flopped big time. Introducing the show with a creative set of trailers really helped it become viral quickly. The trailers got a lot of people interested from the get-go, and as a result, RWBY is one of the biggest web series of all time, not just being popular in the United States and Canada, but also getting a following in Japan strong enough to warrant a Japanese dubbing of the show. However, for as great as these trailers are, and despite how effective they were at getting public interest in a corny web show with amateur animation, I also think that the RWBY trailers showcase how using this marketing technique could go seriously wrong. Because even though I think the trailers showcase everything great about the show, they also had some elements that were misleading. All of the trailers had a dark, mysterious atmosphere with pretty serious themes and intriguing plot ideas. But none of that was prominently featured in the show. In actuality, the show was a lot more lighthearted and reliant on comedy. And while it did have an interesting fantasy world to explore with kick-ass action scenes and great music, the stories and characters were not as intriguing as what was presented in the trailers. The dark sense of mystery and atmosphere from the trailers was completely gone. I remember feeling pretty betrayed after watching the first episode of RWBY. The trailers that were so effective at hyping me up were actually marketing a show that only resembled the trailers in part. Eventually, I warmed up to the actual tone of the show, but many people did not, and it prompted a lot of people to hate the show as soon as it came out. A lot of their criticisms were valid, but let's be real here, many of them were mad it didn't have the same tone as the trailers. My biggest fear with this kind of marketing is that the mistakes made by the RWBY trailers will be multiplied tenfold by studios. Sure, making a short to promote the movie does prevent spoiling the movie, but it's not a foolproof method, and studios would definitely find a way to mislead the audience with false promises. Even so, I'm still a big advocate for what RWBY did here. It was super original and interesting. Interesting enough for me to power through my initial disappointment and become a big fan of the show throughout its first 3 seasons. I say the first 3 seasons only because during the production of season 3, creator Monty Oum died an untimely death at the young age of 33. After his death, the show went to hell in a handbasket, and has been on such a quick downward spiral that even a large number of RWBY fans can't deny how bad it is. And I personally stopped following the show several years ago. That aside, RWBY is still a really popular show. A show way too popular and way too generally recognizable for something created unprofessionally for the internet. And I think RWBY owes a lot of its popularity to the brilliance of its marketing. Obviously, the first 3 seasons of the show had elements that made it popular as well, but it definitely would not have gained as much traction from the start if it weren't for those trailers. And the kind of trailers that RWBY employed is something that I want to see more often when studios are marketing both movies and TV shows. Now, I'm not asking for copycats, I don't want studios to make trailers with the exact same elements, but I want marketing to be more creative. Sure, it's always going to be possible to mislead the audience with a trailer, but this form of marketing allows for so much more freedom as to how to present your movie or show. Film is a creative medium, and it thrives when its creators are allowed freedom. So why aren't we taking the same approach to marketing films? RWBY did, and it now has millions of fans across the world. If a small group of animators working on an online show can create that kind of following, then imagine what a big movie studio or streaming platform could do with creative marketing. There is no reason to stick to the current way of making trailers. If the excuse is that doing something different is too much work or costs too much money, again, if a small group of animators on the internet can do it, I don't think bigger companies would have a problem. I think if studios combined their creative risks with creative marketing to properly communicate what they're going for, trailers would have a much better reputation than they do today, and they would help turn those creative risks into creative successes. I'm Randall the Vandal, and thank you for watching.